very much, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's really a pleasure to be here again, to have this presentation in front of you. Although it's the last conference in this project cycle, I don't think that's the last time we will see each other and cooperate. Well, I chose this topic regarding human rights by trying to enlighten what is the position and what is the situation with human rights regarding the future of the of the European Union. I apologize for the voice. I had some health issues in the last few days. Regarding the human rights and whether we need more coherent politics of European Union in the field of fundamental rights, or this should be left out with the failure of the European Constitution. We will see, I hope at the end of the presentation and to have some conclusions, that European Union has not stopped, and then we have some issues after the 2004-2005. Well, currently in the positive legal order of the European Union, it's clearly that Article 2 of the Treaty on the European Union says that the European Union has been founded on the value of respect for human rights. And that's out of the question. That's probably what is now a notorious fact. But however, if you all go to the back 70 years before, then we had the situation that European communities have been created only for the economic purposes. Of course, there was a political issue of political balance after the Second World War, but basically that was an economic community with economic aspirations, and human rights issues were not in the focus of the founders of the European communities, of course. However, through the process of integration and to the expansion of jurisdiction of the European communities, a lot of issues regarding human rights have been dealt with in the European communities and later in the European Union, especially after the Treaty of Maastricht. Some say that maybe the lack of Bill of Rights on the European level was the consequence of the European Convention on Human Rights enacted in 1950. And probably they say, okay, the Council of Europe will deal with human rights, political issues, and that's the Bill of Rights we need. However, European Union just, if I can say, grabs more and more jurisdictions, and one of them is, of course, our human rights. Of course, in the Article 7 of the Treaty on the European Union, we have that member states' rights can be suspended if it engages in a serious and persistent breach of human rights. Of course, some other articles of the founding treaties deal with human rights. Also, we have secondary legislation which deals with this, for example, equal treatment directives and so on. But, of course, the most important influence in the field of human rights has been given, of course, by the Court of Justice of the European Communities, how it was called. And Professor Trocen in the morning session has mentioned some of the cases, and Internationales Handelsgesellschaft and Stauder v. City of Ulm and Nold cases and so on. And fundamental rights have been mentioned there, and we all know that the Court of Justice of the European Union has been given, and also the Court of Justice of the European Communities have been given more and more influence to expanding the EU's competences. Now in the Article 6 of the Treaty on the EU, we all know that there are maybe three different aspects of human rights, dealing with human rights. One is, what is one of the crucial things by my personal opinion, is that the Charter of Human Rights or Fundamental Rights of the European Union has been given the status of the treaty, of the primary law of the EU, and then especially the second part of the article regarding the accession of the European Union to the European Convention on Human Rights, and of course the last part, that the fundamental rights as guaranteed by the Convention and as they result from constitutional traditions common to member states shall constitute general principles of European Union's law. Regarding the Charter, we all know that in 2000 the Charter on Fundamental Rights of the EU has not become the binding document. It was cited by the case law, by the court, but it has not been given a full power or a legal power. It has been, of course, given by the Treaty of Lisbon. The Charter has more rights than the European Convention on Human Rights, of course. It has around 50 rights, and it includes social and economic rights, and it includes also right to clean environment and others. So my personal opinion that in that period, the European politicians or creators of the European politics were striving and going to the adoption of the Constitution for Europe, all in early phase, but they wanted to have one Bill of Rights which could be added to the founding treaties, to this new Constitution for Europe, and to have the complete picture, to have also human rights as one of the basic elements of constitutionality, like we have human rights in most of the constitutions in the world. The Charter has made some differences regarding the European Convention. Of course, it introduced in paragraph 52 the limitations of human rights, by my personal opinion, not excluding the right to physical identity or prohibition of physical integrity, the prohibition of torture, inhuman degrading treatment, which was not excluded from the limitations, but that was not a problem because we have the other European instrument. And of course, one of the major limitations is Article 51, which says the provisions of the Charter are addressed to the institutions and bodies of the Union with due regard with the principle of subsidiarity and to member states only when they are implementing Union law. Of course, the scope is not universal, and that's also which could be expected. We could not expect from the Court of Justice of the European Union to be some kind of constitutional court, but who knows in the future. In relation to the European Convention on Human Rights, very briefly, because this issue has been dealt with before, we have, of course, from the very beginning, the address that we had the relation in which the Court of Justice, when the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU was invoking the Convention, but not the jurisprudence of the European Court of Human Rights. And also, the Article 52 provides for the European Convention on Human Rights as a minimum standard of human rights in the EU, and also leads the EU to be indirectly bound by the European Convention. But we should be careful with this. Of course, it's a two-way street. Also, the Court of Justice of the European Community cites some cases of the other court and vice versa. Also, which rights of the European Convention on Human Rights can be, dealt in this way that they should be obeyed. There are differences in regulating some of the rights from one and the other document. Also, I would say now that regarding the accession, not to go in details, regarding the accession of the European Union to the European Convention on Human Rights, this issue, of course, in this opinion in 1994 has been postponed. We didn't have the legal basis. Now we have Article 6 of the Treaty on European Union, also Protocol number 14 to the European Convention. This process is going very slow. Even the high European officials have been dealt with this issue or mentioned this issue, and they said it should be done, it will be done, but I'm not an optimist because we need the ratification of all states, of all 27 European Union states. Also, it will consist some more time in order to join completely the European Convention on Human Rights. The other issue, whether this is necessary, whether in the European framework we need two systems. I will address this at the end. This aspect of constitutional traditions mentioned in Article 6 is very interesting because these are constitutional traditions of member states, of course, which provide a necessarily incoherent source and it's very difficult at the level of the European Union maybe to adjust all those traditions, all those court practices, jurisprudence, sorry, and it will be seen in the future how it will be implemented. The other, also one aspect of human rights in the European Union is how this organization is dealing with the other international treaties, like International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, other conventions. Now we don't have the possibility of Human Rights Committee or any other body like nor the European Court of Human Rights to question the decisions, the acts of the European Union. Probably it will, for the other committees, it will stay situation like this in the future. Also, the Court of Justice of the EU has not been reluctant to accept the other provisions. We saw that in the Cadi case regarding the right to property, where the Court of Justice in the second instance has not accepted the Security Council resolution, I mean in that way accepted, but it has dealt with this issue, although these sanctions imposed to Cadi and others have been imposed by the Security Council resolutions bound by the Chapter 7 of the UN Charter. So basically also the Court of Justice of the European Community, of the European Union, sorry, doesn't want to, to broaden the scope of its practice. Maybe for the end, and to leave some time for discussion, to say whether we need further improvement of human rights protection at the level of the EU. Maybe the system of the European Court of Human Rights is not an efficient one. Of course, we know how long applicants wait for the case to be dealt with, first to exhaust legal remedies and so on. Maybe in some situations, system of human rights protection at the EU level is faster and it's more efficient. Also, we have the third aspect, which is maybe forgotten. It's the national level, where the most of the cases have been dealt by the member states themselves. I just want to leave some questions open regarding human rights in the European Union, because I think it will be one part of a significant part of constitutional identity of the European Union. Also, we heard today that states are not sovereign. Yes, still they have some part of sovereignty in the field of human rights, but if we regard this, we see that the European Union would like to maybe take over in this field also. So thank you for your attention.